copywritten production of the Recreation Centers of Sun City Incorporated and is intended for the sole purpose of informing our Recreation Center members. Any duplication, copying, transmission, broadcast, or use, including electronic and social media, is strictly prohibited without the prior written consent from the Recreation Centers of Sun City Incorporated. Thank you for watching.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you take your seats, we're getting ready to get started here. First of all, just after asking you to take seats, why don't we stand and do the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Oops, excuse me. All right. Welcome. This is an exciting evening. We're going to get to see some presentations here that I hope you find just amazing. So welcome to this special session of the board. I'm Tom Foster, President of the 2025 Board of Directors. And this meeting is audio and video recorded by the RCSC, management and staff. We will also be live streaming tonight. Please take your cell phones and electronic devices and ensure that they are in a silent mode. As a reminder, we do not tolerate verbal or physical abuse towards any member or guest or visitor or employee. Violators may be asked to leave the meeting. Let me introduce members of the Board of Directors and at least some of the management team and our timekeeper here tonight. So, Director Steve Collins.
Hello, everyone.
All right, Director Rick Gray.
Good evening.
Director John Brissett.
Good evening, everybody.
Secretary Preston Keiss.
Good evening.
Vice President Chris Nedison.
Good evening, everybody.
Treasurer Anita Borski.
Hello, everybody.
Director Jana Mapes.
Good evening.
Director Jim Ruff.
Good evening.
Our lone representative from the management team, hope he doesn't get lonely down there, is Mike Diermeyer, Director of Operations.
Good evening.
Mike, so since we're live streaming, somebody needs to kind of keep an eye on anything that happens in that chat column on there, and Mike will be our liaison on that tonight. And we don't want to forget Marcia Johnson, who is our board coordinator, who is over there going, he's going to forget me again.
Good evening.
Let me recognize Alan Kleinhans, Carla Young, and Miguel Jackson, who are our audio-visual engineers. And, of course, thank the staff here at Sundial for setting up the room for us. So tonight we're going to have this presentation by TriARC, who is the board's consultant on a lot of things going on at Mountain View. And they will be giving a presentation on the progress of the programming phase of the Mountain View renovation. And we will have a Q&A after that their presentation is completed, so please hold your questions till we get to that point. There is the dispenser in the back of the room. If you please take a number so you kind of reserve your spot in the queue for asking questions. Director Keiss will be the timekeeper, and we will enforce the 3-minute policy because there's a fair number of folks here tonight, and we want to address as many questions and get as much comment as we can. Apparently, I'm live streaming right next to me here. I guess with that, why don't we introduce our members from TriARC, Jill Hamblin and Brad Long and Eric Steiner. And you guys need name tags. Yeah, I know. I know. We'll work on it. I'll make notes. All right. So if you guys are ready, just take over. Thank you.
Can I grab this? Yeah. Are you sure?
Pretty positive.
Okay, is this working? Everybody can hear me. Good evening. Good to see so many faces in the room, and hopefully a lot of you in TV land are able to enjoy the presentation along with us and get your questions answered tonight. First of all, I'd like to start with an overview of what programming is. So we have spent the last 5 months having a bunch of conversations with a lot of community members. And during that time, and the purpose of programming is to create the dream. So this is where we gather all of your ideas. What is that big dream? The best part about starting off a design process is you start with everything, and then you work your way back to what you can actually do. It's like going on a shopping trip and recognizing that you can't have everything in the store. And so you have to look at your pocketbook, figure out what you can afford, and work your way backwards and figure out what is really important. What do we really want? So that was what this exercise was all about. We have gathered a lot of data that you will see. And then the last very important piece is we also got some cost estimates to understand where are we with the big dream. So we know, okay, right now, everything in my shopping cart costs this. It doesn't match with where we need it to be, so then we start making choices along the way. So what you will see is Brad and Eric are gonna come up here, walk you through the process, who we've spoken with. It has been a delightful process. I will say the meetings that I was able to be part of, it was wonderful to see the collaboration, the energy, and the focus toward really making Mountain View something special. So I hope you enjoy, and we'll be ready for questions at the end. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. I think it's going to be easier if I don't have to hold the microphone, so I'm going to try to do it this way. If my voice moves away from the mic, just give me a get back to it. Okay, Jill, thank you. And again, my name is Brad Lang. I'm with Last Architects. We're teamed with TriARC on this project. It has been a very informative, exciting last couple of months, and I think what we have here today for you is what all of you have been asking for, information to make informed decisions about the future of this project. And as Jill mentioned, this represents everyone's wish list in a way. And there are some interesting aspects that we had to go through in order to bring a level of realism and informed data to this process that makes things look probably more done than they really are. It's important that we had to really do a pencils down moment so that we could have our partners, especially our contracting partners, really put their heads together and get us some good numbers, and we will go through all of that. So what is it that we've been up to? Well, we had a series of questionnaires that we released to the groups that are most directly affected by Mountain View. You can see those groups on the screen there or in your packets that you have with you. We talked to a lot of people, and not all of the people that we spoke to were about a club per se. Some of them had just very interesting insights to very important issues like accessibility, neighborhood representation, staff, facilities, the board of directors. I mean, we talked to everyone about what this project needs to be. And so after we presented questionnaires, we received a lot of great information back. We set up some calls with the leadership of those particular groups, and we had great discussions about what it was that we discovered, uncovered, and heard from those groups. That then became what was the basis for our program. And you're going to hear that word program a lot. That is an industry term. It means the spaces, the sizes, the relationships of the parts and pieces of the project. So a lobby and a bathroom and a locker room and a cardio fitness area. So all of those pieces, and we'll get into that in a second as well. Wanted to point out the timeline that we have gone through, the meetings that we have had, the discussions that we've engaged in, and some important milestone dates. So after meeting and talking and translating the wish list of the groups that we spoke with, we had to put together that information in a digestible format so that we could, A, test all of your program wants on the site, and B, have those tests priced and have a cost estimate created for them. And so getting that information to our general contracting partner, our cost estimating partner, was important because while they're not here today, they put a lot of energy and effort into the numbers you're seeing. Those numbers are really based on the work and the drawings and the descriptions of the program that we provided them through you. I also want to point out that programming is an additive process. I've spoken to a lot of you in this room prior about our community outreach efforts and how those efforts produced a series of principles, how those efforts included the facility assessment report that our contracting partner presented, so where they understood the current condition of Mountain View and what it would take to rehabilitate or to build new. We also have presented and worked through some of the usage and amenity data and interest data that you have provided us, again, to make sure that we are giving you the information and basing our decision-making on that information as best we can. And then, as mentioned, these kind of two new issues. Does it fit on the site, and what does it cost? And so you'll see the drawings that we presented about, again, another industry term, test fit. We were test fitting if certain things could fit, what would happen if this thing moved to this area, et cetera, et cetera. So I want to very high level briefly just go over the highlights of some of our discussions with the various groups. I want to make this quick only because I know the more kind of meaty part of the presentation is on the back end, and this is just a setup for what you're going to see later. But from the accessibility point of view, it was really important that the whole site include all of the accessible and inclusive design attitudes and ideas that we can, from the choreography of parking and entering the building, to what a restroom stall looks like, to what a threshold of a door is like, how seating is provided so that folks can get around the site, and really be designed specific for the unique needs of the Sun City community. We spoke to the aquatics group. I know that all of you are aware that the therapy spa pool at Mountain View has been not working in a while, so it was very important that the therapy pool come back and that the resort pool get upgraded in a way that captures some of these inclusive and accessibility issues: ramping, chairlift, handrails, et cetera, seating, et cetera. And then there was also this notion of really making that pool deck area something that you would all enjoy to come be social, spend time with your community, et cetera. Fitness was a very, I would say, a quicker conversation because it was, we need more fitness space in Mountain View. I mean, that is the big takeaway for Mountain View. It is just not spatially big enough for what you want to accomplish there. Lawn bowling spoke about, again, accessibility, inclusivity, shade, spaces that promote community, clubhouse spaces, outdoor kitchen, et cetera. Mini golf, similarly, they spoke about needing more seating, more shade to make the mini golf as it exists at Mountain View just that much more user-friendly and have a better experience. The neighborhood groups really got to, I would say the big summation with the neighborhood groups was, in the end, we need to do something at Mountain View, and what we do at Mountain View needs to reflect the community. And the quote was, and it's here on the screen, is they want users of Mountain View to come to the recreation center and say, this was designed for us, they get us, they understand our needs. Performance actually encompasses a lot of groups that we spoke to. We spoke with concert, piano, rhythm ramblers, ukulele, chorus. We spoke to all of these groups. Again, we wanted to build upon what we had learned from the outreach, was that this wasn't about just one particular performing art. It was about supporting all of the performing arts. And so how does this project support not only theater, but music, dance, lectures, education, etc.? We spoke to the players. The players had a lot of great information, and I would say the most important things to highlight with our discussion with them is just their priorities about it being a multi-use space for a multitude of different arts, and that experience is heightened and that patron experience is really made special. The pickleball group, we discussed with them their desire to not only upgrade the existing pickleball courts, but to expand the pickleball courts as the project allows. We also discussed different ways that we could potentially provide more shade. Again, this is that issue of providing more usable hours, more comfortable patron experiences. Staff really focused on the uniquenesses of Mountain View, some of which are difficult at times. Mountain View has this very unique layout where you have east and west parking, and it's hard to even know who's on site at any one time. You all who use Mountain View know that you can just walk onto Mountain View and start playing mini golf or start playing tennis. And yes, that is one of the nice things about Mountain View, but it is also problematic. Anyone can come onto your site. And so staff really talked about this need of increasing security, looking at planning solutions that we could solve some of these issues without, and this gets back to the dream, without undoing everything at Mountain View. That would be too costly, and no one would feel satisfied about what it would take to consolidate the parking per se. Tennis, similar. Wanted to upgrade their courts, wanted to provide more social and communal aspects to their gameplay and to the site in general, and also looking for opportunities to expand if possible. Now, this is one of those slides that is way too small, and we know it is, and that's why you have your packets, and that's why I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it, but I do want everyone to see that through those interviews, through those conversations, through various translations, we looked at what we heard and we had to turn it into actual physical area and space. And so what you see here are all of the various spaces represented to scale that represent various functions so that we could do these test fits, these imaginations of the possible, the potential of Mountain View. And so you get to see like all of the parts and pieces. Now, when you look at a drawing that we're going to show you here in a second, or if you look at the boards to my right, again, there's a tendency to feel like there's a finality to it. But really, we're still in that dreaming phase. We're still in that phase of presenting information that's going to allow you to make very good decisions about what it is we prioritize as a community and how to move forward. I'm going to bring my colleague Eric Sterner up, and he's going to go through some of these issues on the usage.
So one of the really amazing aspects of what we just heard was it was the wishes, right? We interviewed everybody. We understand the wishes of all the clubs. What we also were given as we were doing this process by the board was the usage status. So we have a full year of 2024 usage, and we also have, as far as we have right now, 2025 usage. And I also know it's really small. You guys have your packets. I can't see that well, so I'm not going to get into the numbers. But the reality is that these utilization percentages and data really help us understand better what program elements are being used, how much they're being used, and it also affords the maintenance crews here to understand, okay, if something's being utilized like Marinette Pickleball 70% of the time, we should look at something, right? We should look at, we might have to maintain it a lot more than we thought. We might need more courts there. We're doing the same thing, and all the ones highlighted in green are for Mountain View. And we're looking at what's being utilized a lot, what's not being utilized as much. It's informing our approach on how we will think about expansion or maintaining the current programs. It's the same thing on the 2025 usage. If you study the numbers, there aren't huge deltas between the years, but there are huge swings on the differences between program elements, right? You see the higher number on pickleball to usage, right? So it states to us, okay, there's a few things we might have to look at. We have to maintain those courts a lot more because they're being used more. Same with tennis, those courts need to be maintained. We know about the pool already in its current condition. And so maybe a lower usage there is saying, okay, if that pool's not as great and it doesn't offer as many things as Bell or any other recreation center, we need to look at that. We need to make a change. What might that change be? So that's where we begin to fuel our understanding of not only the usage, but also what we heard from that early wish list that Brad was presenting. So as we move forward in this process, what we're going to begin evaluating is this usage information relative to the programmatic understanding that we have per the wish list, and begin comparing and contrasting those to understand what's the best option for Mountain View, what's the most fiscally responsible thing that we need to do, what is the community really going to want, and then ultimately, what can we fit on the site? Brad mentioned before test fits, they're along there, they're in your packets, but you know, there's a reality that we only have so much space. The usage affords us to understand how much we need, and we'll continue to right-size all of that information based off the wish list and the usage data to understand what we should do here at Mountain View.
That was purposeful. Eric gave me a break so I could catch my breath again. I appreciate it. But no, you'll hear from the whole team when you're asking us questions, and we look forward to those. So, series of information was just presented to you. A process was presented to you. Program that emerged from discussions, that emerged from the translation of those wish lists into actual spaces. And we came to realize that if we looked at what everyone wanted, we needed to explore a variety of potential options. We come to you with no recommendation of an option. We come to you showing you what those options meant in terms of their reality on the site. Now, there are some consistencies across the options, and those were based on the fact that there were some very particular asks and some very particular data that we based those on. For instance, these options all look at a new performance and fitness center. They do that because the current fitness and performance center is just not meeting the wish list of those users. And to explore any other way of doing it at this point would really not serve you well understanding what is possible on the site. So, what are those 5 options? The first one is about preserving all of the existing amenities and upgrading them in the way that we've heard from you and upgrading them in a way that meets the requirements as they can as they sit on the site in terms of area, in terms of relationship. The second option is a kind of dual option. It expands pickleball to where the current tennis location is, and tennis then moves over to lawn bowl as one option. And then in the second option, pickleball expands into tennis, and tennis is removed from the site. In the third option, pickleball is expanded to where lawn bowling is, and lawn bowling is removed from the site. And the fourth option, pickleball is expanded to both the tennis and the lawn bowling area. This was a study of numbers. We were asked to look at how many pickleball courts could go on Mountain View, and we have a great answer for you now. We know what that answer is. I also want to mention what another consistency is. We did not mess with or move mini golf, and we left the pool, the resort pool, where it is. All of the additions on aquatics happen around it, near it, but the resort pool remains, and we looked at upgrading it per what we heard from the community. So those are the 5 options. We're going to run through them. There's a lot of information on these drawings, and it behooves all of us who probably want to go to bed at some point today to not go through each and every line item, but we're happy to answer all of your questions as we get through it. So, your existing site currently, and this is the first option. I also want to mention something on this notion of dreaming big. We, again, as a premise for this first round of exploration, assumed, based on the facility assessment, that all of the structures are new. New clubhouse, new storage areas, new restrooms, new locker rooms by the pool. So everything is new that is built vertically in these dreams. That doesn't mean that that's what's going to happen, but when we look at what it all means, we are now armed with the information to find paths forward of what can be maintained, what needs to be new, and where our priorities land. One of the interesting things about these studies is a lot of things fit on the site. We were not as constrained physically based on the site that other projects might be based on the program. The performing arts piece in the kind of mauve purple color, representing about a 400-seat theater, fitting nicely where it currently exists now. Fitness as an expanded programmatic element really starts to move south into that underutilized area at the southwest corner of the site. Another issue that came up was not only looking at the therapy pool as an addition to aquatics, but also a lap pool. And so how could we, again, dreaming big and exploring, how could we integrate a lap pool into Mountain View? And if we can, how can we do it? Well, currently at Mountain View, there is a decommissioned solar hot water area to the east of the current resort pool. And that area is basically an area that we, during these test studies, took advantage of to look for a place for that lap pool. The other areas, as you see in this first option, mini golf, lawn bowl, tennis, and pickleball, all remain where they currently exist, but they are upgraded to the specifications discussed. What just happened?
You scared
Magic.
I scared you. It's a trick I have. Go slow.
Take a breath.
Click. Perfect. Option 2A. I will not reveal the magic behind the presentation. So, as discussed, 2A, the difference, the thing that is different that we explored here is pickleball moving south where tennis currently exists. Now, why would we do that? Well, we wanted to explore A, the expansion of pickleball, but B, the most efficient way to potentially cover pickleball. And in order to efficiently cover pickleball, let's have all the pickleball together. And so what happens, and this is an interesting subtle difference between option 1 and 2, what happens is we lose some space where performance would be. And so in this particular option, some of the performance storage and set making capabilities are actually moved to the east end of the east and southern part of the site because they didn't really fit where they would be in option 1. So those types of subtle differences do show up on these test fits, and they're priced and looked at accordingly. I also want to note that, again, there's a lot of numbers on this slide. We not only looked at what it would cost to expand courts, we looked at a variety of ways to potentially cover those courts. We heard from pickleball that there were 2 kind of preferable methods, a steel fabric type structure or a marionette style structure. I also want to mention that the idea of fully enclosing pickleball actually had code implications that we couldn't get around. The second it became an enclosed building, our parking counts went to crap, to use a very blunt word, but we did not have the parking we needed to have that much enclosed space on the site. So we looked at those options. And those numbers are presented in the summary on the right. And again, this is that very subtle 2B option where pickleball is expanded, the performance and the piece of the performance moves off, and lawn bowling remains and gets its upgrades. Option 3 is utilizing that lawn bowl area for potential pickleball expansion. You can see when pickleball is not moving southward, there's more room for performance, and that area of performance doesn't have to move over to the southeast part of the site. Performance can all be together in one part of that main building that encompasses fitness, performance, and the facilities folks. And then the last option, we were asked to determine and look at if 20 pickleball courts could fit on this site, and they can, and they come with the removal of tennis and lawn bowl to do so. Performance, fitness, facilities, all is a single building. There's a lot of efficiency in making it a single building. Another interesting part of our studies that, again, you'll see a consistency throughout the various options is some of the spaces are shared amongst the different programs. Fitness wanted a lobby. Performance wanted a lobby. Everyone wanted this kind of central place, this central communal gathering spot to meet friends, to hang out, to look and maybe look over the pool or just have some concessions, et cetera. And so a lot of the spaces start to become shared in that sense. Those spaces become pink in the different options, where the lobby is pink. You can, I could try to point, but I think that's what messed it up. I tried to point. So I'm not going to try to point at anything this time. But you can see that kind of central lobby and how that lobby starts to reconcile the east and west parking lots and how those spaces that are pink are shared spaces. Another quick anecdote about shared spaces is Performance requested a rehearsal space. But in our discussions, it was clear that that rehearsal space could also be used by other folks who want a multi-use, multi-purpose space. And so that space shows up as fitness area and as a performance area. Okay, so what does all of this cost? And again, this is conceptual cost estimating. This is based on area, element, square footage, based on current market rate. It's based on the descriptions that we provided our cost estimating partner to understand the level of finish, the level of systems, et cetera. So what we end up with, and this is also important, given this very early exploration, all of these numbers are quite padded, meaning they all contain contingencies that solve for the effect that there's so many unknowns still. But those unknowns are not so outside of our mainstream and our expertise that we can't plan for them. So all of the numbers that we presented come with a 10%, what is called the design contingency, on top of it, and that is to protect the budget as we move forward to account for all of those unknowns. Now, you're probably wondering and asking yourself, there's not a lot of difference between the numbers. Like, why is one not extremely less expensive than another? And the easiest way to explain that is all of the options. Look at the entirety of the site and do something to it at every moment. There isn't one option that doesn't have a piece of the site that is just left alone. All of these options have repaved parking. All of these options have upgraded landscape throughout the entirety of the site. All of these options account for the fact that we're going to need to upgrade the retention and detention capabilities of the site from a water point of view. And so really it becomes, and it turns into, well, let's start to look at what are the priorities of the community, where do we want to spend our money, how do we want to adjust these options and these priorities into making what we're calling just a framework to move forward into the formal design phase. That's it, just a framework. Design hasn't stopped, it's actually just started, based on the direction we want to go, the direction you want to go, based on the information that we have for you. And like we said, we have our principles, our program, our cost, its relative size to the site. We have all of this information now, and we're happy to unpack it as deep as you'd like to go today, because there's a lot to unpack. I hope I'm doing good on time, because I'm about to wrap it up. Perfect. Oh, good. Yeah. I think she's just being kind. Yes, yeah, I think so too. So with that, I'd like to just say that the best way to describe this presentation and what we have for you is that it is, what is that famous phrase, that it's the end of the beginning. We are ready to move forward with the information that we've provided for you based on the decisions that that information allows you to make. And like I said, there are many ways to move now, and we can move very informed. I can tell you that a performance space is about $500 to $600 a square foot. So if we shaved $500 off, or 500 square feet off at a conceptual level, $250,000. I can tell you that fitness is ranging about high fours, low fives in terms of cost. Instead of 4,000 square feet of fitness, maybe we want 3,000 square feet of fitness. Shave 1,000 square feet off fitness, and we're looking at $400,000 off the conceptual budget. There are many ways for us to move, and I just want to reiterate what Jill said. This was the dream big. This was understand the totality of the asks. This was to understand everything. And it represents everything. And the numbers are probably shocking at times because it does represent everything. But that's where we stand, and we're very excited to have this information. We have been told over and over again this is about moving forward with informed processes, informed decisions, and I think we have a great deal of information and data now for us to do so. So thank you for your time. We're happy to take all of your questions and look forward to continuing this process with you. Thank you.
Brad, yeah, we might want to move that microphone the other way so that folks can come up and ask their questions, and perhaps we can provide you with one of our mics.
That's true.
Okay, so again, if you've got a number back there, that's preserving your place in the queue to ask a question. 3 minutes is our policy, so come up, ask your question, and the TriARC folks will do their best to answer that, assuming it's a question of them. If it's a question of the board, we will try to do our best. But this is really a night to talk with these folks, because this is why we're here today, is to hear this presentation and the culmination of all of the inputs that you, the members, have given them. So these are member-driven types of different alternatives for the site. And so let's go ahead and get started. And who?
Number 65, please.
And can you hear me on this?
Yes.
While this person is coming up, one thing that I do want to make sure that everybody knows, this is not the last time that we will be talking to you. This is the beginning of the conversation. So we will be expecting to hear more input as we get into the next phases of the project. So just wanted to make sure that everybody understood this wasn't your one time to speak. We will have many, many conversations in the next phases.
Greg Ingstrom, 37093. I am president of the board of directors for the Players Club. And I guess I don't have too much to ask, just thank you very much for a great presentation. We've had much conversation with TriARC, so there isn't too much that surprises me. I have two questions. One is, did you do any figures on usage per square foot by a particular club or entity? Because, I mean, if you got a third of the place in pickleball and it's used 4 hours a day, the usage per square foot is much less than if you have a smaller group, but it's used almost 24 hours. And I just wonder if that might have a bearing on the decision that we make. And then the second question is for the board, assuming that it's one of the 4 choices that they've come up with, who makes that decision? How is that decision made? Is that at the end of the day a board decision, or is there going to be a vote, or how does that work? And that's it. Thank you.
I can answer the first part. We did not look at the usage per square foot. So that isn't something that we could share with you today. If it is something that feels like it would be helpful, I'm sure that we can pull that information.
I think it would be helpful to the board in knowing how to make their decision if it is indeed the board. Thank you.
So it is indeed eventually at some point a board decision, and at least while we've had some preliminary discussions, not about these specific options by any means, but just procedurally how we might go forward. And my hope is that we will have gotten enough information here that at the board meeting that is later this month, I think the 25th, that we could place a motion on that agenda where the board would essentially show its preference to one of those alternatives. And then we would enter into the design phase focused on generally, broadly, whatever was included in that particular alternative. Now, as Brad was suggesting, you know, there's some squish in these numbers, if you will, that you can alter this by a few hundred square feet or that by a few hundred square feet, and quite honestly, I will sharpen my pencil a bit and ask him to sharpen his, because you know, we did envision a certain budget here, and we would like to try to be as close to that number as we can and still provide an excellent Mountain View facility for all of our members. So I think hopefully that addressed the question, and we'll go to the next.
Number 66, please.
Hi, Tom Swenson, 135906. I'm in many roles. One is I'm the liaison to the board and everyone else for the building. And there's a committee, and I'm the head of that committee. And secondly, I had the opportunity to inspect Mountain View as an inspector for Mountain View. And I just want to say somewhere, the staff needs to be complimented on the way they have kept that enormously old facility going on all levels, the buildings, the pool. I just want to compliment the staff. I want to compliment TriARC for listening to us in our phone discussion, and I want to thank you, for the board, for all your hard work. My time is up. No, number one, my cost is other operational differences in the plans. In other words, utilities. I think that's the ongoing thing that I would like you to think about.
Ask all your questions first.
Okay. Sandy, what is the timeline for how long the PAC would be down, unavailable? And I'm assuming it's being demolished. I don't think the public has really been told that it indeed is going to be demolished, which, thank God. In a perfect world, we want the storage and the shop and everything connected, but we understand. Something that's not being addressed, and there's a big concern by the community and for our consumers, for our patrons, is the parking distances. The distances from that back parking lot, the distances from the far end on the front, those are really long distances for people to walk or maneuver to. And I know that was a huge concern in the last go-arounds, and there's no changes to that in this proposal. So I just asking that question. Thank you.
So I'm going to address the first question about operational, and my colleagues, please feel free to jump in where I might miss. But I can pretty confidently say there aren't a lot of operational differences between the options, and mostly because we weren't able to, and I mentioned this previously, enclose any of the sport courts. Enclosing the sport courts would have raised the operational budget of this project considerably. But all of the shading elements we explored are naturally ventilated options. And so in terms of the differences, it really is more minute than major because of that issue. Any add-on to that?
No, exactly.
Did you want to speak timeline?
So for, sorry, the timeline question was how long will the PAC be down?
Yeah.
I don't have a specific answer for you. It would be all of demolition, which in fact, yes, that is the case of what we're showing with the big dream, is that building would be demolished. Part of what we uncovered during the facility assessment piece was that there was so much maintenance that was required to bring the building up just to baseline was so expensive that by the time you add in a little bit more and really fit it to the use, it was really cost prohibitive to go back and try to reuse that building. So it makes sense to reinvest in a new facility. So by the time you do that demolition, we're talking about years. So it's construction likely would be around a 14-month process. So I would expect that you would be going through demolition and construction during that time, fitting it out. Your
2-year estimate.
I would say that's on the heavy side, but for planning purposes makes sense. Yeah.
The parking question. Did you want to address the parking question?
Yeah. We'll pass this down. Here we go. Okay. Parking, yes. There's a few things on parking. One, it needs to be resurfaced for safety and accessibility and all that stuff, and we know that. But in terms of those distances, one of the things that we had learned from all of the groups is that the parking needs to be improved, both for the accessibility and the ADA spots, so we're going to improve those because one, there's enough for the city, what the city requires, but we're doing ADA, we'll call it plus, right? So that's an approach. And then at the same time, because we are restriping, we're resurfacing, and we're rethinking that parking, we will take that comment into consideration as we're doing that layout. Currently on all those plans shown right now, we're showing what is there. I think there are mechanisms to allocate the ADA spots to different zones, to different openings, to different ways into the site that we're looking at as we think about the site in totality that will address that concern. Maybe even better drop-off. Oh, and better drop-off as well. Yeah, there's that little roundabout right now. It's just, yeah. We're going to enhance that drop-off. He was being sarcastic, we will enhance that drop-off as well.
Number 67, please. And if you know your number is coming up, if you could move towards the front so we could delay or increase the number of questions people can ask, that would be helpful. Thank you.
Gary Ozier, 109025. And my biggest question is, utilization numbers, I think, are imperative to make expenditures such as this based on no utilization data, really. And if you want, the Long Range Planning Committee did a bunch of utilization that was bought off on the board, by the board. And if you haven't seen that, you need to look at it. And my question is that going to be a part of, I mean, if you have two people playing tennis over the whole year, do you invest in a tennis court? That kind of stuff needs to be brought out.
I'm sorry, wait.
Is that the last question?
That's for now.
Oh.
Is that all your
Well,
questions, Gary?
I'm sorry,
Is
say it
that
again.
all of your questions?
Is that all your questions, Gary?
Yeah, I forgot. Was that your entire question, or is there more that you wanted to?
I have, I knocked it all down. Thank you. As long as that's going to be part of the puzzle for you to evaluate with, I've got no problem with that. But thank you. What I've seen, for instance, there's not real good data for the numbers of people that attend the players stuff. There's some, but it doesn't seem like it's hard to drag it out of them, because we had a heck of a time doing that when we were doing long-range planning.
So,
what's your question? I'm sorry. Never mind. I'll sit down for the moment.
I'll address just the utilization data. So we do have utilization data, and I presented some of that data. Yes, there's still more data out there. We're reconciling all of that data. To give you a really short answer, the answer is yes. We are addressing that utilization data. It's a key part of how we'll make decisions on this next phase. And at the same time, think about, again, there was a question about usage to square foot, to cost. Yes, you can think about all those things in terms of utilization data, but what we're really looking at is, one, what's being used and how much, and then ultimately, we're not just thinking upfront utilization, tennis is really popular, we should have a tennis court. We got to think about long-term maintenance. How much does it cost to maintain year 10 a tennis court versus how much does it cost to maintain a performing arts center versus how much does it cost to maintain a pool? That's the other part of the equation that maybe we haven't spoken about yet because we're getting there in this next phase, but just know that we are and will continue to keep looking at utilization from a very broad lens of how we think about that data and how we will drive a plan forward from what we presented today.
I just want a quick add-on. Just out of the idea of transparency, there were a few performance groups that we spoke to that didn't have much data for us because a lot of their events are first come, first serve, and you can walk right in. So there was some performance groups that we did not have good data on, I think. And I don't remember exactly, I'd have to look at my notes, but there were a few that were like, hey, I can't tell you exactly how many people show up to my event, so.
Director Gray.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, just because you're right on. There you go. Can you hear me now? Yes. Okay, there was a question earlier about data per square foot. And so I know our data queen, Vice President Nettesheim, has went through all of our data and gave that to TriARC. So do not think that they don't have all of our attendance data. We just didn't divide it down into square foot. So Gary, just so you know, the people, the attendance, and you'll see some of that listed on the handout. So if you think that maybe we didn't give that to them, we did. We just didn't break that down and calculate it into square foot. And as far as I'm concerned, if we know how many people are playing tennis or how many people are doing pickleball, that's more important than how many people per square foot are playing tennis. So just so you know, we did get them plenty of data. All the data that we have has been given to them.
Okay. Number six. Thank you. Number 68, please.
How you folks doing? I'm William Brewer, 150-270. Anyway, I forgot my number. What I want to talk about is the data is pretty irrelevant. The place is run down. There's a lot of people not going there just because of the state that it's in. So you can't really use that. That's a skewed number. If you get everything up right and get it going nice, there's going to be a whole lot more people show up. That's a fact. You know, I've seen that throughout what you've done. You know, I'm sure that Oakmont now, the new equipment at Oakmont, the usage has gone up if you check that. But anyway, and the other thing, the parking, I don't see parking as an issue. Build a little, when you're building the Performing Arts Center, build a little garage, put a shuttle in there and shuttle people. That's not a big deal. We're living in a golf cart community, for crying out loud. And then as far as all these plans, what I see right now, and I may be wrong, but what I'm seeing so far is we're going to be kicking the can down the road if we don't do something soon. You know, we've got to do something within the next few months, or we're going to be into June or July, and we're still, well, we're down to 3 now, you know, so we got to get with it. We just got to get up and get going. And my time's up. That's all I need. Thanks.
God, I'm having a good time tonight. Number 69, please. Well, number 70.
Hello, Dave Clausen, 154-961. It is good to be back. And thank you, TriARC and Last Architects, for a great presentation and a lot of work here, more than I can digest. I listened to the video in advance of coming to the meeting, and it was very good again today. I had a couple of things that I still not totally understand, and that is, you explained a little bit about not being able to renovate because you took a look at the costs of upgrading and whatever, but initially we had an engineering study that was kind of a wanted thing for years and never did get it, and I think we got an engineering study, but none of us ever saw any results of that. Was there such an engineering study? And was there any intent for us to see that? So that's one question, the engineering study. Enclosed roofs over tennis courts or pickleball courts, I get that. That doesn't make sense. to have totally enclosed because for some reason the Maricopa County requires parking for new enclosed roofs. Now, does a carport, if you just had posts on the corners and you had shade that was effectively a hard roof, would that qualify as an enclosed roof? It does. So it does. That was the question. So does just open sides and a roof on top, does that qualify as an enclosed roof? That's question number 2. Yeah. The budget amount, this is really a question for the board. We see numbers in the 39-40 million. Do we have a budget that we've allocated? I know at some point there was a number floated, but it's been a long time since I've seen that. So that's my number 3.
26.4 million.
We're going to wait until he's done with his question.
That was question number 3. So let's see. I like all the good cooperation. It's good to, I always like to give a little plug for cooperating with each other and working together. And I think this is going the right direction. I'm very hopeful. So those are my questions.
Okay. You guys had a slide that showed whether or not it was a sliding scale of what was able to. I don't know whether you want to show that or if that's something you want to direct.
We don't need to. It'll be too small on the site. But I do want to address your question about engineering.
Yeah.
Yes, it was done under the title of facilities assessment.
Okay.
So our contracting partner for pre-design, Kraus Anderson, who is also doing the cost estimating, did a very deep dive into the site as it exists currently, and yes, understand the state of the systems, how old the HVAC equipment is, how old the electrical is. All of that has been addressed and accounted for in that facilities assessment index number. And if you were at the last conversation we had, it was really it's a ratio of how much money would it take to just do the maintenance needed on the building to get it back to what it is? Not any enhancement.
Maintenance
what
or
it is.
Upgrade? Maintenance or
No upgrade. Maintenance only.
Maintenance of just as it stands?
As it stands.
Okay.
And Mountain View,
Okay.
especially performance and fitness, had a very large ratio, meaning a lot of money would have to go into those older buildings just to get them to where they are, not to any upgrade, nothing. Not a new not a new AV system, nothing, just to get it back to where it was. And so a lot of that had to do with why our explorations looked at new build.
I'm confused. I'm not. Oh, you're talking about that slide?
You have that chart.
I do have that slide. That to me is under. I can't understand it.
Let me try the example I gave last time.
Okay.
When you make a decision to buy a new car, at some point you go to the mechanic and the mechanic says it's going to cost you $10,000 to fix this car. The car's only worth $12,000. Do you want to make that investment? That is what the facilities assessment number is basically telling us. We need to invest, and I'm just going to use some round numbers to try to make this easily digestible. We need to spend $10 million to get Mountain View back to where it is, and as it stands, it's worth $12 million. Do you want to spend $10 million on a building that's worth $12 million and get none of the upgrades that have been requested by the community?
Okay. I guess I don't understand all of that, but I understand what you're saying, that there's been an assessment.
There has been an assessment.
And you have looked at it as well, and the board is going to evaluate that?
Yes.
In my mind, I would like to, I would have preferred to see not only a percentage of efficiency in an assessment of excellent versus poor, but actual numbers like this is what it costs for AC, this is what it costs for electricity, this is what it costs for maintenance, and I don't see that.
Dave, we need,
And we have that, and we can provide it. And then your question regarding enclosed and shade.
Yeah.
A open air roof, an open air enclosure like Marinette, would not create additional parking load on the site.
Okay.
It's only when it is fully enclosed and conditioned that it would create that parking load.
By conditioned, you mean air conditioned?
I do mean air conditioned, yes.
Okay, and that was, I can't remember the other.
To move on.
Yep.
The other question was budget, and that was.
Oh, the budget was,
If you could ask your questions and sit down, then we'll answer your questions.
Okay.
How's that work?
Oh, that works.
Yeah, thanks. You want to talk about the budget?
Well, Director Collins did throw out a number there that was, okay.
Speak about budget. Go ahead, Tom.
Okay. I'm kind of a stickler for budgets. I'm sorry. I guess I'm not sorry. I guess I don't really apologize for that. I kind of look at some of these things and go and hold people's feet to the fire in the sense of this is what we were told, this is how it's going to go down, or it may not go down in that form in order to be as close to that budget as we possibly can. There are only so many dollars in the PIF account. That only gets replenished so fast, and that depends on how many homes are being turned over in our community. So it doesn't grow on trees. We have to be prudent about how we spend that money, and when we've planned out that longer-term use of those PIF funds, whether it's Mountain View or whether that's on a golf course or whether that's on a tennis court or a pool or whatever the PIF funds are being allocated to, you have to take into account, if I spend this today, and maybe that's a good thing, because if I wait till tomorrow, it might be twice as much. I mean, that's possible. But I can't deplete those funds either, because stuff happens, you know? The roof at Sundial caved in a few years ago. Nobody planned that, and we had to come up with funds to try to fix things. So you need a reserve in that PIF account for surprises, you know? So when we look at that and we start budgeting numbers, we need to stay close to those numbers, or the whole thing kind of tends to fall apart. So not apologizing for holding folks to those budgets, but we need to be as close as we can to those numbers in order to make the whole thing hold together.
What's the number?
Thank you.
So what's the number? You've talked a lot about
The current PIF forecast has $28 million for the Mountain View project.
Thank you.
Okay.
13 years ago when it started, it was 23 million, and now we've only.
Well, I guess I have two folks here who want to say something. Treasurer Borski, did you wish to speak?
I just wanted to say regarding budget. We aren't that far off, and as this TriARC has mentioned to you, this is a padded number that they gave us. This number can change. We can take, 300 feet off of fitness, or 500 feet off of players, or eliminate a pickleball court. Things will happen. The budget that we have, remember, was set probably 5 years ago, long before inflation. So we're not only dealing with that budget, we're dealing with inflation costs. So somebody's got to give somewhere. These are their best estimates with including unexpected things. Now that can change. But even that, we're probably $5 million, which sounds is a lot of money, but it's not a lot of money when you look at the size of what we're doing.
Vice President Edesine.
So, Dave, you asked about whether or not a roof like a carport with just metal posts, right? The pickleball community specifically indicated that would be, they would prefer no covering versus having that type of covering because of the way the sun comes in and blinds them for being able to hit the ball. So the answer would be, could you put it up? Yes, but it's not what the pickleball community has asked for. So why put something up that the pickleball community did not ask for?
Okay.
Okay, go ahead.
Number 71, please.
Tad Daughters, 117436. I just wanted to make sure that you're aware that the 3 buildings that are outlined but not filled in the southwest or southeast corner are 2 of those were sheds that are now gone, and the third one is the set building shop that we need for players, or at least a similar facility. Thank you.
Okay.
Yes, so a set shop and a set space was included in the program for the players. There was exploration of it living in that area you're discussing now in some of the options, just again because of space constraints. So we looked at it, but it is part of their program and would be part of the final program. We understand its importance.
Number 72, please.
Good evening, Lori Ellingson, 133335. I live a 3-minute bicycle ride from Mountain View. I use the facility in every aspect. I specifically flew home last night so I could be here for this town hall meeting. I live in Phase 1. I use Mountain View, yet I was not contacted when they said we talked to the residents of Phase 1. So I would like to be able to sit down with TriARC and give you all of my stats and all of my information. I agree with Gary Moser. I agree with Bill Brewer. The facts that you are using are skewed, biased, and should be thrown out. What I don't see is people using common sense and people getting the big picture. We're not looking in the future. What is being presented here is what is going to please the residents that are here. But I don't see anybody looking at other active retirement communities and seeing what they're offering and seeing what future people are wanting and looking for. And there's 3 brand new 55 retirement communities in the Des Moines, Iowa area. Every single one of those talk about, instead of downsizing, the new term is right-sizing. And they are promoting an active retirement community. When Del Webb first started this community, that is how it was promoted, an active retirement community. They looked at what people of that time wanted, and that's what they put in. Here, there's no 5-year plan. There's no vision of what is needed, and we're listening to the wrong group of people. We're using the wrong data. And again, common sense is not a gift. It's a punishment, because you have to deal with everyone who doesn't have it. Thank you.
Good time to finish right on it. Did you want to come?
No question, so go ahead.
Number 73, please.
Hi, my name's Barbara Hopkins, 145818. And I had to take notes because I'm a girl of very little brain these days. First of all, several months ago, I decided I was going to get fit. And I was going to start going to the gym. And it was going to be wonderful. So I went to every single gym that is in our community. And some of them were great, and some were, Mountain View stinks. I mean, literally, it stinks. And I won't go there. My fitness person won't take me there to show me how to use the machines because there's not very many of them and they're not working well. So, what's interesting to me about this, by the way, and by the way, I totally agree about the security. When you walk into Fairway, you're immediately in front of a group of women, usually women, sometimes men, but you have to sign in. And at Mountain View, you don't. And what's interesting to me about that, too, is if you look on this picture, right over here is my condo. And right over there is Scott and Alan's house. We're all neighbors, and we love it. We do. But it is a little scary sometimes. As far as the fitness center, I don't want to, totally belabor that, but the thing about the usage is if it's too awful to go and use, you're not going to get the usage numbers. And until that gets fixed, and some of you have said that, until that gets fixed, you're not going to see usage. Anecdotally, when I do go to the gym, when I go to my different clubs that I belong to, and I say, I live over by Mountain View, and they have, and a lot of people don't even know it's there. A lot of times the sign, I still have a little bit of time. The sign that has, welcome to Sun City, and it's got the temperature and all that, is not working. More times than not, it's not working, so I don't know. I do appreciate all the work that everybody's done. Okay, thank you. But I have to tell you, I have planning fatigue. This has been going on for so long, and the costs go up every year that we don't put things in. So I think it's time to, fish or cut bait. And my question is, who makes that decision and when is it going to happen? Thank you.
Well, you're the second one to kind of ask that question, and ultimately the board makes that decision. And I'm going to be leaning on my colleagues here to consider choosing one of these particular alternatives in the very near future, and then that we would, having chosen that, move forward with the design phase of this project. That doesn't mean we're putting shovels in the ground yet, but we have to move step by step, and Vice President Nedesine is assigned to buy shovels for everybody. So.
Not buying
sledgehammers.
I'm not buying shovels. I'm not buying shovels for everybody.
All right, next.
You can bring that one.
Number 74, please.
Hi, everyone. My name is Susan Daphnis, 167684. And I just have a question about when you're making these decisions. I'm a pickleball player, so I'm just wondering if you consider. And I noticed you had numbers for pickleball. I wonder if you consider how many people throughout the whole community play pickleball, how often they're playing, that kind of thing, and how popular something is, and if it's growing, and something for the future. So if you can just answer that question. I do want to say that I appreciate that you finally fixed up the pickleball courts at Mountain View, because it was actually very embarrassing when we would have teams come from other places to play pickleball here, so that was nice that you did that. So once again, my question is if you consider the popularity of something versus lawn bowling or tennis and pickleball. Thanks.
You're welcome to go right ahead.
Or do we want them to answer? Alan? Do you want to answer that?
Alan Queenie.
Alan?
Okay, here we go. So when I was looking at the usage data at the beginning of this year, when I was looking at it at the beginning of this year and doing some analysis, the one thing I will tell you is I tried to look at the data itself, but also what the data is telling me, because you can make data tell you anything. You really can. If you want to prove that we shouldn't have more pickleball courts, we can prove that. You want to prove that we shouldn't have a theater, we can prove that. If we want to prove we want to have a theater, we can prove that. If we want to prove we can have more pickleball courts, we can prove that too. You can make the data do whatever you want. So the data comes in, but there's a quantitative analysis of the data and then a qualitative analysis of the data. So this is what the data says, sheer numbers. This is the value that it adds to the community. So that being said, yes, when we're looking at all these different things, we're looking at the future. Contrary, Lori, to your thought process, we are looking to what's in the future. We literally just spent, I don't know, Susan, about 10 hours listening to people tell us what's coming in the future. So we are looking to the future. We are listening. We are trying to balance the wants and needs of the many against the wants and needs of the future and what the data is indicating to us. So yes, the answer very quickly is we're looking at the data, but we're not just looking at the numbers. We're looking at the big picture, the global piece of it, as well as what the individual numbers imply. So we are doing all of those things. And I believe TriARC was doing the same thing, because quite honestly, I sent no analysis to TriARC. I just sent raw data. No more, no less. So they came to their own conclusions and their own analysis. So just to share with you guys.
Okay, go ahead.
Number 75, please.
Mary Dahlman Shopper, 128-442. All right, I'll start with pickleball. Months ago, I had asked, when it was even being talked about, why do we have to have so many more pickleball courts? And the answer I received from the pickleball people was that we all want to have the ideal hours because we live in Arizona and it's super hot. Okay. I don't understand why we have to have 20 pickleball courts. That's number one. I don't understand, are the other teams coming in, are they paying a rent on the pickleball courts? Or if you're having, some type of competition, how is all of this going to get paid? Or are we, Sun City, just nice people that we build these things and everybody can come for free and have a great time? So those are my questions as it relates to the pickleball courts. I don't think we need 20. Okay. The next thing, near and dear to my heart, ADA and parking spots. Okay? ADA will say you need X number of parking spots. Wonderful. We live in Sun City. We are a senior community. I am strongly suggesting that any number you have now for parking spots, please add a minimum of 500 to it. There are so many people that have placards that are not transporting someone who is disabled or disabled themselves that are going to take up the ADA spots in Sun City. So at that point, you need to be able to have an overflow area to answer the needs of all the people who are here. That's all I got. Anybody for pickleball? You want to take that question?
I was just asking for volunteers.
So my answer to the pickleball question is there were four options, actually 5 with 2A and 2B. Not all of them have 20 courts. So if you look at them, there's a different number of courts for 2A and 2B and for 4. So not all of them are saying we should have 20 courts. So just, if you actually go in and do 1, 2, 3, 4, you will find that not all of them are 20 courts.
True.
So.
Can I have 10 seconds?
No.
No?
Sorry. I'm hard. Yeah,
Okay.
sorry. Trying to get through everybody tonight. Well, that's what you get. Director Gray?
Yes, thank you. Okay. I think, didn't you make in your presentation that you were going to have the expanded number of handicap spots? Because I think that, and she might not have heard that, but I think you've already articulated. Can you speak to that quickly?
I'd be happy to. Yes, it was made very clear to us that we are not just going to design this new facility at the baseline of what ADA as a rule requires us, that we are going to go above and beyond, that the entirety of the site is going to be infused with the specific needs of your community and how we can design so that anyone who has any sort of different mobility, different hearing or seeing would be welcome at Mountain View and supported. And then I would also add on to that is that a lot of that level of detail is what happens once we start getting into schematic design, which is the next phase. That level of detail. The idea that we're going to go above and beyond, that is the concept and that we've all embraced. How that manifests itself in the project is, the detail of that is to come. And we'd be happy to speak to you about it as we do.
Vice President Nettesign.
Okay, so again, so here's the deal with the whole ADA thing, Mary. So we've had lots of interesting conversations along the lines of how wide the stalls should be, how long the stalls should be in the bathroom, what type of commode should be in the bathroom, to whether there should be handrails, to whether there should be a lift on the pool, what kind of grading we have for getting into the pool, for how do people get in and out and up the curbs, to everything. And TriARC will tell you that when we've been talking accessibility, that has been a huge deal across the board. So I will share with you guys, not just for Mountain View, anything we're doing going forward, we need to start thinking that way, because we're all aging in place. So I think you will be pleasantly surprised. The one thing I can guarantee you, there will never be enough restrooms for women. That's the one thing I can guarantee you.
And with that, number 76.
Yep, Susan Bjork, 112-650. Chris, I appreciate your comment about looking at the bigger picture, but I was hoping to get an answer from them because, as you mentioned, the board is staying out of it and want to look at what the architects have found. So I've got a few questions. My first question is, did you consider spend versus longevity with future needs for future generations, and spending that spend for something that may become obsolete, or what are current trends of other communities? And thank you for bringing up the master planning consultant interviews, because I asked a couple of them and they were adamant that, yeah, theater's good, but it should be multi-use, not. And so I want to know if you've considered retractable seating. These people think that, some of these folks think that it's bleachers, but we all know that there is very comfortable ADA, compliant retractable seating or other type of seating that would allow us to maximize the use of that particular facility. And the other thing is, what kind of other alternatives are you going to show relative to the pool other than a lap pool? They like the shape of the pool, but we all know that pool design has come way further in the last, since that facility was built. Are you going to say, hey, here's what you would get if we kept it the same, but here's another option that you could consider, just to show them? I don't really care what the pool shape is myself, but I don't know that they understand what other options are out there relative to how pools are being designed today. So I think that's a really important part of considering the programming. And then you mentioned lobby. I think all of the facilities need some sort of reception lobby area, so I don't know that that should be pinpointed on any certain group. I understand why you were doing that, but it doesn't make sense, because we need a reception area, we need a lobby. Most of the rec centers do have an area, so I'm not sure how expansive you were thinking of the lobby. Thank you, Preston. So the biggest thing is, we're a self-governing community, and it's about doing what is right to keep the community and to keep up the community and ensure relevance for serving not only the current residents, but attracting new generations. We don't want to be spending $28 million on a facility and have it not be the best for Sun City. And we need to stay away from necessarily self-serving desires.
Good.
Okay.
Thank you, Susan.
Sure. Thanks, Susan. So as for looking at other communities, absolutely. It's what we do all day, every day. That's inherent in our job. So we're looking particularly at Arizona, because they do have a lot of leading edge communities. So we are taking all of that into consideration as well. I think balancing that with this community and understanding what this community wants is incredibly important. If we go to another community and say, they're building these amazing new facilities, huge, large performing arts centers, they're building these huge pools, they're building enclosed pickleball, and we're not taking into consideration the people here, it's short-sighted to not consider both.
Okay, Susan, go ahead.
Okay, so these are things that we are considering. So we want to make sure that we're being very respectful to the community that's here and that we're answering that. As for pool design, absolutely. In schematic design, we will be getting into everything from retractable seating, which you are correct. They're great products, span costs from very, very expensive to more affordable, and things that we can look at so that we can evaluate all of those options. There are things that come into play with multi-use facilities. You have to be careful that it is not so multi-use that it is not used by anybody. So balancing that is very, very important. I think in terms of understanding performance is having those numbers so that people see if performance is using a facility, how many days out of the year will they be using? That will be part of schematic design, is those numbers will be presented, which then will go into playing into the multi-use facility. So we're absolutely going to be looking at all of those. The pool, in the same vein, we will look at that also during schematic design, what is needed. One of the things that you will notice is the lap pool is below the line, is what we're calling it. There was interest. I will say the interest was not as high as a lot of the other components. So we pulled that below the line so that you could see that specific cost. So as we start to evaluate the overall budget and pull things down to the budget that we need it to be at, that we will have that information that we can make smart decisions from. So I think that got everything.
Yeah.
Anything else? Okay.
Number 77.
Are you going to tell me my time's up?
Do you want me to?
I know you want to. This is my notes. Okay. Right here. So, a couple questions for you.
Sir, name and number.
What's that? Oh, 153253, I believe.
And you are?
John Fast.
Yeah.
And you probably don't recognize me. The reason is I'm auditioning to play Santa Claus for some hospitals in Denver. So that explains this.
Will be nice to you.
Yes.
Shoe in, John.
Well, and that used up 12 seconds of my time. So in any event, I guess my first question is global, and that is, if you were to look at all of the centers and all of the utilization, would your answer be different with respect to what you would do at Mountain View? In other words, if you had a canvas that said we have 8 centers and this much space and they're used 20 to 30% of the time, would your answer be significantly different as to what you would do at Mountain View? The second question I have is that when we were in the SAC, the Strategic Alternative Committee, we were dealing with numbers that were like $1,000 a square foot for a theater, and I believe you just told me it was $400 to $500.
5 to 6.
Oh, five to 6. Do I hear 7? Do I hear 7? Okay, so $500 to $600 a square foot, which is still a pretty big gap. So are you confident with that 5 to 6 that that's a padded number? That's I guess let's see, the other thing. Yeah, I guess it was great that you're going to look at the actual usage. Do you have a projected usage of the Performance Center? So have you projected what programs are going to be in there and what we're going to use it for? So that would be helpful for the members. And, excuse me, Tom. I think you're out of order.
Sir, your time.
Yeah, I know.
John, go ahead.
Yeah. So in any event, let's see, the projected numbers, and you're going to use the actual numbers, but you, at least as I saw your presentation, you don't have the actual usage numbers for the Performance Center.
We do have those numbers, they were not included.
Okay, you do have those numbers, they were not included.
The board has those numbers.
The board has those numbers, but they're not included.
And it wasn't out of not sharing, it was information that we didn't ask for.
Okay. Okay, those are my questions, thanks. Oh, you're dropping the ball, buddy.
We are?
30 seconds.
Oh.
I knew you were wrapping it up, so I figured you were okay.
Thank you.
I'm going to address that. So I do want to address the cost number. I've designed other performing arts centers, and yes, they can be $1,000 a square foot quite easily. Those are very state-of-the-art facilities. What we heard from the group, from the community, is that we are looking for a very good center, but not the best center, because that's just not what your community needs or asks for. So it's going to be a great space. It's going to be amazing, but we can do that at a $600 a square foot range, conceptually, as of right now, before schematic design, all of those things, right? And if it turns out we can get a good deal because we have a good contracting partner, so be it. Or if it turns out that there's something really important that the performance space needs that's going to raise that price a little bit, then we'll address it then as well. But 600 we feel is a good number at this point, given the description of that space. And then I'll hand off. Would we do something different if we globally knew all of the sites? Well, I will say we have looked at all of your sites. We've been on all of your sites. It's been a wonderful to kind of immerse ourselves into your community. And we do know that Mountain View is unique in that it is the home to this performance piece. And so looking at all of the sites, I feel like the options that we've presented to you very much represent the soul of what Mountain View needs to be. And it is a weak fitness area. It is the heart of performance. It has all of these variety of sport courts and availability. So that soul, that's kind of center of that place, I feel we've represented well, even through the options where some programs grow and some shrink and some are removed. But I feel confident about that. Team?
Okay.
Oh, the projection of
Projection
uses.
numbers. Projection usage.
Go ahead.
So I have heard from previous boards that, yeah, that study was, look, there is a kind of initial study of all of the various groups that can use this facility. What was her name? The previous board member. She used to bring it up all the time. Connie. Yes, Connie. So that has been discussed, and yes, that's why we're talking to all of the various groups. It is very important that this space represent and be able to be used by as many people as possible.
Number 78.
Jim Oxel, 1500-150092. I had a couple questions, and basically a lot of it has probably been answered or you've discussed it quite a bit. Usage figures in there. Very interesting. I'm a data guy, data analysis sort of thing, coming from a background in insurance, in which insurance just works with all kinds of stuff. When I left the insurance industry for property and casualty, it was predictive analytics. Believe it or not, we had something like 70 data points or things we looked at to rate a car driver. This is all in commercial things, and I have no idea what that number is anymore. So that's my background, just to let you know. The question I had is, the comment was made, nobody asked us, or I wasn't part of that question and answer period with the group here. But I think the ASU group had several months ago, didn't we have an online survey of what do we want? What do you like best about it? What do you think we need in the future? That's been addressed. And my question to you, I guess, is one, what happened to that data? How was that utilized? And then the other question has to do with the utilization numbers. And I realize we don't have complete data, but what are the trends in that thing? We have that few months in there. What was it like 5 years ago? Predictive analytics is going to say, what are you going to look at in 5 and 10? We've kind of addressed that a little bit. But I think that's going to be an important part of the, what's the number here, 10 or 12, 11 probably. You're going to have to make that decision on your own. And I wish you well on that. I thank you for the process in which you've done this. I liked the presentation on YouTube this afternoon. I looked at that. It was great. It was basically what you said today. And I would encourage everybody to go back and look at that. There's a link in the email that you received today. And look at that, because the decision needs to be made, and it's made very common there. And it's been interesting to see the growth in this process. It's been kind of gnarly, but I appreciate the work that you as board members have done, and God help you. Thank you for your time.
Jim, you should not have told me about your insurance background because I'm going to be calling you for the insurance committee. All right. Did you
answer?
respond?
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, first off, I'll just say about that car insurance thing, I have that snapshot thing on Progressive. It is brutal. I get dinged all the time. I don't like it. Too many points. Okay, the ASU survey that you speak of, we did have that data. And I think the questionnaire that maybe you were referencing, we also sent out a survey as well. So we had the surveys from before. We had the most current surveys. They were done about, 6, 7, 8 months ago. Wow. Anyway, yes, we are compiling all data, old and new. In terms of the trends in that data from 5, 10 years ago, I don't have it from 10 years ago, but we do have that data. I presented last year's and then our current this year's data today. That is also, I would echo, I would say it would be a good idea if you didn't catch it today to really understand the numbers to rewatch the video that was posted online. But again, the data 10 years ago, will it inform today? What we're really looking for is where are we at today? Let's draw the line in the sand and move into the next 10, 15 years. So like Jill was talking about earlier, we are studying communities, retirement communities in Arizona. We are also looking at them nationally. What are they doing? We're looking at those amenities and we're cross-analyzing and comparing them to make sure that we are keeping up to be competitive, to have the attraction, to have people want to be in Sun City. And then at the same time, we are also right-sizing it to Sun City. Brad mentioned the theater already. That is right-sized, right in the middle. We're not doing some, global theater that's $1,000, $2,000, $3,000 a square foot. We are hearing you, and then we're right-sizing that cost and right-sizing the spaces accordingly.
Well, real quick, a couple things. One was on that ASU study. There were a couple of I guess, things that tended to resonate there, and they were things like how many restaurants do we have available, walking paths, social spaces, and these things have been discussed. We just added a social space over at Fairway, and the walking path is something that we've talked about for this particular site as well.
It's on the plans.
Well, there you go. It's on the plans for Mountain View. Restaurants are a little tougher call. And there's some other economic reasons for that, but certainly under consideration. So I hope that is at least some response to the issues about the ASU study. And then I wanted to ask Mr. Diermeyer whether we had anything. Okay, could we just take go ahead and address a couple of those before we continue with the.
You have my permission.
Well, thank you.
So our first person online on the live stream is Mike Modell, member number 145164. Number of pickleball courts is really the only variable in the options. Why is this? Seems a bigger picture view is needed.
Yeah, so we can address that. Really, it was about what we heard from the community, and there was a consistency with some of the elements and an inconsistency with some of the elements. And yes, pickleball was a driver with a lot of the variation that we explored, given a kind of ask for 20 or to explore 20 courts on the site, does it fit, et cetera. And really, it's about understanding the top, and Jill, you mentioned this, so that we can peel back to what is right size for this project based on budgets, based on need. And so, yes, the push for, let's say, having a variety of performance sizes as options doesn't make a lot of sense at this point, because once we were able to establish a cost per square foot, we can now have those conversations relatively easily. across all of those elements. And really, it then becomes about new elements, lap pool, new pickleball courts, new clubhouse, et cetera. And so it's easier now to kind of peel those things back and explore a variety of ways forward in that direction relative to making 20 different, I'm speaking to you like I'm speaking to the person online. It's just a habit. Instead of having like 20 variations at this stage, there are plenty of exploration to come.
And I thought there's an interesting comment that Jill made a while ago, in that when you talk about, for the theater, the number of seats, that is a smaller fraction of the cost. Most of the cost is in the rest of the building as opposed to the seating area, which is a relatively low-cost area.
Mr. Dearmeyer.
Gene Totten, member number 148753. Please repeat the amount of dollars from the PIF that will be allocated for this project. When was that number established? What is the possibility of that number changing?
Did we not mention that was around?
The PIF forecast that was approved by the board last year, the 10-year PIF forecast, allocated $28 million in total for the Mountain View renovation.
That seems adequate to me. I guess, you know, I pinch those nickels until you know what happens, because this is your money as much as anybody else's, and I want to be a very good steward of your funds. So we are going to sharpen pencils on all of those things. So Gene's question about when that could change, it can change. It certainly could. Might not be me raising my right hand on that one, but that doesn't mean it wouldn't change. So it is possible. And it depends, I think, on are we getting good value for the dollars that we're going to spend. And it could be that the value would justify that. I just want to be very careful about expanding that expenditure at this point in time.
All right, Mike Wendell, member number 145206. Did TriARC consider building the new center from scratch, from an empty lot? The current options include tearing down and rebuilding all existing buildings.
So we did not look at a blade and redo. We did look to capture the things that we could. Repaving a parking lot versus blading the entire site does harness some of the existing conditions, which allows us to save money. If you look at mini golf is a great example. To strip that back down when it was just recarpeted we think would be bad use of your money. So blading the site was not an option that we considered.
Does that conclude the online ones? All right, Secretary Keiss.
Number 79.
Baltus, 118090. I want to thank everybody, the board, the members, everybody that participated in deciding whether you're going to use this light bulb, that door handle. It had to be an overpowering program that you guys did, so thank everybody. So as far as the numbers being skewed, yes, everybody's tired of hearing about that, but it's because Mountain View is so old. It's run down. It's tired. Oakmont had low numbers at one time till we fixed it up. And if you remember Town Center, which is now Fairway, their numbers were very, very low. So I don't see how you can use the past numbers. Have you made any projections for future numbers? Because you're comparing a thoroughbred horse with an old plow horse. There's apples and oranges there. The numbers are padded in the budget, I understand that. But this is our chance to make this the new shining star of Sun City. So please don't dumb down this program. And as far as checking in at the desk, every center has a check-in desk. And you only check in at the pool and the fitness center. So whoever it was that asked about that, there is a check-in center there. Thank you.
Thank you.
Number 80.
Christine Richard, 161328. So I've got a comment and then two questions. So first of all, I wanted to say this presentation is great. Thank you so much for all this detailed information. Very comprehensive, coherent, user-friendly for a resident. I love that there's a walking track. I love that you're securing the border. I love the lap pool, and now I'm sad that it might not happen. That it's going to be accessible. I think it's great. So that leads to my next two questions. You guys are going to make the final decision, but is there a way for you to take feedback from the community, a straw vote, something to get a pulse? So that's question one. Before you make your decision, can you get a pulse from us? And then secondly, regarding the budget, so we're kind of $10 million off. Can you make your choice, start working on the essential stuff, and then put in my lap pool in a couple of years when you get the money? And that's it. Thanks.
Well, in a sense, we are doing a straw poll, in a sense, right now, that that this has been member-driven from the get-go. And I remember sending a note to Jill here, it was in April, I think, going, okay, go forward with this programming phase and start talking to people, and then there was a slide up here that showed all of the different dates and times and places that they met with folks, and I'm sorry if some folks didn't see some of that communication or felt they were left out, but wow, I don't know how many more communication ways we could have used to try to alert people to contact the board or Mr. Deermeyer in order to get you a spot with TriARC to give your input. But in any event, what I think has come out of this is they've put together a couple alternatives, 5 alternatives here, that is reflecting essentially that straw poll. They got this input, or at least my interpretation here is they've gotten this input from our stakeholders, from our members, from you, that these are the things that you would like to see and or not see. And so there are not only some groups who may have made either more people showed up and gave input on certain amenities, or others did not show up to defend their amenities. And so what you see in these alternatives is somewhat of a reflection of how much participation you were able to give them. So in a way, I kind of look at these various alternatives as a form of a straw poll, and now the board has to choose one of those alternatives.
Oh, straw poll. She wants to send a straw poll out to the community and say, okay, options 1, 2A, 73, which one do you like?
Well,
okay. That's her question.
That's a tougher one. I guess I would need to talk a little bit with my colleagues about that. At some point, you elected board members to make decisions here, and every time you punt things back, that kind of defeats the purpose of having voted for someone or selected someone to represent you on a board. So that doesn't mean that couldn't happen, but I'm a little reluctant to go down that path very far because we are kind of your representatives and have been trusted to make a decision on your behalf, and we're trying to listen as much as we can to the information that you've given to the consultant here. So I'm hopeful that my colleagues will look at this data, and I don't know that they'll weigh each one of those equally, but each one of them is going to make some kind of decision based on their perceptions, and hopefully I trust them that they will come to a decision that is in the best interest of everybody in Sun City.
And I think it's important to know when you talk about data gathering, TriARC has done an extensive review of our archives. They've looked at SAC meetings. They've looked at previous town halls on Mountain View. They've looked at everything that's available in our database and past meetings that has to do with this. And they've done a fantastic job of going back to making sure they're getting as much information as possible. And with that, number 81.
Hello, my name's Karen McAdam. My number's 122045. So I just want to piggyback on what you said. A wonderful presentation. Congratulations to those of you at TriARC who have put this together. I love the fact that each of the individual pieces are associated with cost estimates. We haven't always had that as we've approached this project in the past, and it's really good to see that. I also want to piggyback on, John's gone now, but on a former colleague of mine about this cost per square foot for a performing arts center. So 2 years ago, we actually were working with an architect, and we paid to get cost estimates, and the number was actually $1,271 per square foot for a fine arts center. So that actually played in, and historically this might be of interest to some of the members here, into the question, I think Dave Clausen had asked this earlier, wouldn't it be better to renovate? The cost for renovation that Marlene had come up with was $13 million, and we said, well, for a 10,000 square foot facility, which is maybe not what we're going to build, but it's larger than what Sun City West has by a little bit, would have cost at $1,271 per square foot, $12.71 million. And the decision was simply, well, it makes a lot more sense to build new from scratch what you want for $12.7 million than to renovate an old building for $13 million. But I just want to say to you as board members, it really behooves you as board members to figure out this is more than a 100% change from $500 to $600 per square foot to $1,271 per square foot. Please do your research. Brad, I'm not trying to tell you that I don't believe you, but I don't know whether I could believe Marlene either. I'm not the professional here, but please go back and look at what Brad has built before for $500 to $600 per square foot, when that was, and whether that's really a number that you can trust and use to make your decision going forward. But I do have a couple of other questions. I just want to say about retractable seating. Somebody asked about potential usage for a performing arts center. I'm a huge proponent of a performing arts center, and I think it will be used every single day with tiered seating. It makes no sense to put retractable seating in if you have a facility that's being used every day with tiered seating. So that's my own personal opinion about that. I also just wanted to say, I wanted to ask the board, apart from checking those numbers out, the per square foot numbers, to ask you what it would take for you to go back to TriARC's original recommendation to build the PAC at Lakeview and not build it at Mountain View. Just asking you what it would take, because we're seeing that it's creating a lot of issues. Parking, everything else, that was their professional recommendation to us, and I would ask you what it would take for you to revisit that. And the second thing that I just want to ask is there any intention for there to be a change in traffic egress leaving the east parking lot? Will everybody have to turn right to get out, and will everybody have to turn right to get in there? Thank you.
Do you want to address first here?
So parking, is that the easy one?
So since Brad was called out, I'll let him answer the cost per square foot. But I think we feel confident in the level of PAC that we were looking at. As we mentioned, this isn't the MIM. The right sizing of that facility is very important. So it is not a high school gymnasium or a high school auditorium. It is a step above that, and that was the descriptor that we gave. So the contractor that priced it out has built many of those recent builds. So we feel comfortable with the number, understanding we have to also design to that number. So it is definitely a back and forth relationship to get to that level. There will be decision points where it's, do we go this level or this level? And based on where that cost is coming in, we will make those decisions. The parking will be part of the next phase of study. So schematic design absolutely is looking at the flow of traffic. That is also a much bigger conversation, understanding that we'd have to have a conversation with the county on that. So.
And I think I can speak for my colleagues. We've been down the road of putting the PAC at Lakeview, and the members have spoken. We're not going to go back to that. The members have spoken pretty clearly that their preference for the area is at Mountain View.
Okay, let's.
82.
Don Shorje, 27140. I'd like to address my comments for the board's consideration. Back in 2006, we built the Fairway project. We started. It was designed in 2005 by the board of 2005, going to the various users. They interviewed them, got their input, gave it to the architects, put it together. The architects gave us the preliminary costs. And with that, the 2006 board, 7 board and 8 board, of which I was on, and I was president in 2006. We did it. I don't want you to be intimidated by the costs. We could not do it all at once. That was the problem. So with the architect's help, this went up in 2 phases. We had our treasurer, Norm Dixon. He sat down with a consultant who had been a previous president of the board, Jim Kugler, an excellent CPA, and the 2 of them were the money men who made this thing work. But we could not pay for it by trying to swallow the whole elephant in one gulp. So if you remember, those of you who were here, we built the rooms that are to the, the east, and the pool area. In that facility, there was nothing but a plywood enclosure. And then after we paid for phase 1, phase 2 went forward, and we paid cash for phase 2. So we did it over the course of, basically, we started in 2006, and I believe the dedication was in 2008. Don't be intimidated by $40 million and start throwing out things that you've worked so diligently, and these architects have worked so diligently to put together. The financing is another thing, and it can be done. And don't be intimidated, and I commend you for the progress you've made. Thank you.
Well, just real briefly in response to that, Norm Dixon and I go way back, and we are fond of saying if he takes one position, I will change my mind to take the other position. It's just the way it is. We cannot possibly agree on the same thing. But to your point, and it's something that we did touch on a little bit earlier when we were talking about the PIF forecast. You know, I totally get the concept of don't be afraid of this, don't be intimidated by it. But I've got dozens of other projects on that PIF schedule demanding funds within certain timeframes to meet certain mandates, and that does put us in a position of having to be careful about the allocation through time. So yes, I get trying to sort of do this on the installment plan, so to speak. But sometimes that's a little bit of a risk too, because now you're depending on, okay, we need to make sure we sell 1,500 houses this year in order to generate enough PIF revenue in order to cover those anticipated costs. So I'm a little bit in the camp of, maybe a lot in the camp of, I'm going to spend what I know I have in the kitty rather than what I think I might have in the kitty next year. Just because it's your money too. And if we try to make decisions and commit to things that we don't have the funding in the bank, so to speak, that's putting you and I at risk, and I just don't want to go down that road right now.
Our projections were very accurate. We did have to do some deferred maintenance.
Okay. Sir. Ask and answer.
Okay, thank you very much. I hope that was responsive to your question anyway.
Number 83.
Thank you. My name is Vicki Miller, 104197. First off, I'd like to say thank you for the TriARC. What a great job you guys have done, and for the board also. Second, I'd like to address the fact that I actually was on a phone call with the TriARC on behalf of the Ukulele Club, and there was at least, I think, 3 other clubs that were on that same phone call. So they did get a hold of us, all of us, and I believe everybody else had an opportunity to speak at some point in time also. So I commend you guys. You did a good job with that, and it was not just a 5-minute phone call. This was very, very extensive, and it was like, whoa, I didn't know I had that much even to say about it. So I thank you guys. You were really good with that. But I'm actually up here to speak on behalf of the tennis courts, and thank you for not making them into the tennis courts and/or pickleball courts into Palm Springs. We don't need that. You know, we live in Sun City, and that's what we expect to have for as far as facilities. You know, I mean, yes, we can have nice-looking ones. We did the Bell Courts, gosh, how many years ago? And they resurfaced them, and we love it, and we thank you for that. I'm curious, I'm looking at the numbers here, however, and listening to one other person talk about the pickleball and how they're embarrassed to bring other teams in here. Well, being the captain of the women's tennis club in Sun City, and we are at Bell, we have 10 teams that we play. There's 10 teams in the league, and it's all reciprocal, where we go and then they can come here and play. So yes, we bring other people in for that, so it's like, again, 9 times throughout the season we will have another team come which has 6 players playing. We are allowed, every club is allowed to have one sanctioned event, whereas you can bring other people in and not have to charge them, I think it is. And so I'm curious, I know pickleball does a sanctioned event, and that's great, and they've got 20 courts to do that on. Well, I'm looking at the numbers here, and at Mountain View, we have 2 tennis courts. They have 7 pickleball courts. Well, they have just roughly over, you know, four times the courts, 2 to 7 or under 4 times, and yet their numbers, you know, they're barely over. They are over 4 times the amount, but they're within there. And then I'm also wondering how many of that number are from other people or others that they're bringing in. So I think that needs to be taken into account. Of those options, one eliminates tennis, one eliminates lawn bowling, one eliminates both of them. You're talking about taking away 2 clubs that have been here and built Sun City, so we add 10 more courts or whatever. Please think about that when you're doing this.
We've been at this for a couple hours. I don't know how many more numbers have been selected back there. Do we need to take a break or?
The next number is 90 on the
Well, perhaps we should just soldier on and get through this before we take a break.
Number 84? Oh, I want to ding the bell for you.
3, right.
Steve Collins, 166871. My question, I want to know if this here has site work costs in it, because I didn't see the breakdown for the site works, the costs. Second question, the pool. The pool has been mentioned and we'd talked about it. Is the entire pool coming out and another one being put in, but same shape? The theater, you're talking 400 seats. There is a cost factor if you go over 299 seats to the Players Club every time they do a performance if they have to get copywriting. The question was, we did have $28 million for this project. We've already spent about 1.6, 1.4, 1.6 so over the last 4 years, because we've already gone this route once. So you got to remember that. My question is, how long, once we tell you design it, how long will it take you to get us the design work so we can put it out to bid? And to answer your question, at some point in time, the board is going to have to pull up their big boy pants and we're going to have to make that decision. That's what you elected us for, and we're going to have to do it. We may not all be happy at doing it, but we're going to have to. We can't let this drag on and just keep wasting your money. Thank you.
I really wanted him to go past right now. He could have gone another minute and a half for me.
Go ahead, Brad.
Yes. So thank you for the questions. We knew we had very extensive cost estimates that you were able to see that were much deeper than what we were able to present on the screen. But we did think that the element cost would be an important piece to share with you today. So we did bring the boards to the right that do break down site costs. And I'm going off of memory here. I've been looking at a lot of numbers this past week. But I do believe that the resurfacing is around $800,000 for the parking. I know the retention work, potentially underground retention given the site constraints, is another $800,000. And we have allocated at this stage at the conceptual level about $3.5 million for site work across the entirety of Mountain View. So to answer your question, site work specifically, I would put it at an estimate of $5 million in our current estimates. The pool, thank you for that. The pool as it exists, the resort pool as it exists, is estimated to be renovated, not destroyed and rebuilt. And so the costs that are in our current estimate actually are about renovating it, adding the accessible elements that were requested, and upgrading the equipment. The equipment is pretty much shot at this point, so it would be upgrading the equipment as well. The other two pools, that's why they're filled out in the dark blue, are new pools. The therapy pool and the lap pool would be brand new pools. The performance 299 seat, I can't say that that has been put into our thinking at this level, but it's an important point that we'll continue to look at. And then schedule, did you want, so schedule in terms of design a project of this scale, I would say 10 to 12 months to design the project to get it ready to go and bid. Yep. Thank you.
Number 85.
Thank you, Ray Shield, 171651. First of all, thank you all for your work on this and TriARC as well. Just a comment in regards to the Performing Arts Center. I can think of at least 6 or 7 groups that are currently not using the space at Mountain View that can do that. And I would urge anyone here or who's listening, and if you're in a group, to begin thinking about about how your group can utilize the space, because it's not just for the players, it's not just for the band, it's for all of us. The question has to do with solar power in the Southwest, especially in this area here. Heat, sun exposure, and water conservation are big issues. We've talked a little bit about shade structures. Does the cost and the numbers that we're talking about include any kind of efficient insulation, glazing, cooling, landscaping? Have we considered solar power, passive heating, cooling, any kind of durable materials and resilient design, or is that not being discussed yet, and does that come at a later time? Thank you.
Again, thank you for that question. Very generally, those are things that we think about all the time. If I could plug Eric and Ari's practice, we called ourselves Last Architects because we believe in building lasting projects and not burdening our communities with maintenance behemoths that turn into the next eyesore. But the specifics that you're referring to all are going to come with the beginning of schematic design. How we use passive strategies, how we integrate passive strategies with active systems that are energy efficient, that are easily maintained, that are not so outside of the norm in our environment that they provide or that they create a maintenance issue for you moving forward. But those levels of detail are to come. But just know that we cannot put pen to paper without thinking about those things. This environment has formed almost the core of our ethic as designers, and we're constantly thinking about how we design in a desert, how we design in a basically a desert city. So thank you for that. I mean, we love that you're thinking that way as well. Can't wait to have those conversations with you.
Mr. Dearmeyer, are there other questions to clear off the?
We have two. We have two. One of them's new, one of them's a repeat question asker.
Okay, then let's just address the new one and move on with the rest of the folks who are still here.
Okay, Robin Clausen, member number 154905. Has any consideration or cost assessment been done on sound barriers for the neighborhood to soften the noise of the current pickleball courts and the addition of more courts?
So there are a few different types of enclosures that we explored. The baseline estimates and drawings are of a standard chain link fabric enclosure. So no to that. The secondary enclosure we looked at was a metal and fabric type enclosure. So we know from experience that also would not enhance the sound absorption qualities of that type of enclosure. The third type of enclosure we looked at is more akin to Marinette. And so through that type of enclosure, we could explore basically methodologies and ways to reduce sound coming out of a pickleball court. And then lastly, again, through schematic design, if that type of issue kind of bubbles up to the surface with the community, we can look at other types of enclosures besides chain link and fabric. We could look at something that's more solid as a mechanism. But currently, as explored and as estimated, the baseline is chain link with fabric, and then those adders for a fabric enclosure or a Marinette type enclosure. So it would have to come in a next phase to explore that.
Treasurer Borski.
Do you plan to look at what is referred to as the quiet paddles and the quiet pickleball balls?
So the sports that you all want to play aren't up to us. you tell us the sports that you want to play. But we're not looking at what that entails. We know it exists, and we know it's maybe of interest in the community, but we didn't do any specific design based on a quiet paddle or a quiet ball.
Okay.
Number 86.
Mike Shepard, 118475. Just a few observations. First of all, I do not have Finger Hut seat covers on my car because I bought it to drive. I didn't buy it to resell. When I bought my condo, I bought it to live in, and it's my son's problem getting rid of it. I'm not looking for the future, I'm looking for now. I know that's selfish, but a whole bunch of us are doing the same thing. We didn't buy these things to make an investment in the next 20 years. Secondly, I spent a lot of years in construction. The number of jobs that came in under the architect's estimate, I could count on one hand and have fingers left. The number of jobs that did not have change orders, I don't need a hand for. Another observation, nothing is getting cheaper. The longer this thing procrastinates, the more it's going to cost, and the less we're going to be able to do. Finally, all of this stuff is statistics driven. Benjamin Disraeli observed many, many years ago that there are liars, damn liars, and statisticians. We need to be careful what numbers we're looking at, because as has already been pointed out a number of times, there are a lot of things that are not being considered and can never be considered. And so you're going to have to make your best guess, and you need to do it as soon as possible. Because frankly, at 85, I'd like to be in the thing before I die.
Thank you for that. A lot of wisdom there. You're correct. If the architect was responsible for the cost estimate, we would be in big trouble. We purposefully and through our process brought on a contractor who builds these types of buildings to do our preliminary estimates. We are confident this number has the basis in reality. Now, am I going to guarantee that number? No, because I didn't make it. But we hired someone who has the experience. We hired someone who works in the space, who is not a professional cost estimator. We hired a contractor who builds these buildings. That's who gave us this estimate. And so we're hoping, in the spirit of information, data-driven efficiency and response, that is going to be the best number we can give at this point for you, because yes, I'm sure we've been there ourselves. It's sometimes very hard to maintain a conceptual number once you get all the way to the end. Count them on one finger or one hand, I believe you.
Number 87.
Karen Harper, 1400. I forgot. 48. Sorry. First of all, like everybody else, I appreciate so much the board and all the work you've done on this. This takes a lot of time because you are looking after our money, and we appreciate that very much. And having said that, I was wondering, please correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the statement was made that the board will have a meeting on September 25th when the board will show their preference of the options. So does that mean that you have already pretty much decided on what option you want to go to with?
Finish your questions.
That's my question.
Oh, okay. That's it. The answer is no. I have not asked anybody to make a choice or disclose a choice if they have a preference at this time. I think it's important that they listened to this presentation and the feedback from the members here in case there was something they heard or further information that came to light that might nudge them in one direction or another. But yes, it is my hope to put that on the agenda for September 25 and attempt to get the board to put a stake in the ground. That doesn't mean they're going to do that for me, but that is my intent. And as the gentleman who just preceded you said, you know, we need to keep the momentum going, or these projects tend to slow down and die a very slow death, and that we've watched that happen too many times. And we are, I think, as a board, committed to moving forward on this project, but doing that in a measured and calculated and cost-efficient way. So I know it's still taking time, and that's probably not always what you want to see, but we are going to get there. That is my pledge to you.
Number 88.
My twin brother was up earlier. Tom Swenson, 135906. I want to.
He was better looking.
Goodbye.
He was younger a half an hour.
Okay. I got to drop 3 jokes now. President Foster, I want to support what you were saying. My father was a politician, and he's raised me in civics. We are not a democracy. Almost no government in the United States is a democracy. We have a representative democracy. And that's precisely what we do. We elect people to do the right thing for us. Unfortunately, for about 5 years, we were real bad at choosing members of the board. Now we have one that I think will step up and take responsibility well. Next, if you upgrade, people will come. That's true for the theater too. We get so many people who say, we'd love to come to the theater, we can't sit in those chairs. We just can't, physically. So that's an important point that I'm sure will be much more used with the Performing Arts Center once we have a decent one. Here's my big question. Biggest question is, I understood, I've been following this for too long, but my understanding was there was phase 1, 2, and 3. Phase 1 and 2 got kamushed together, and there was a phase 3 that was going to be 4 years from now. And now I've been told they've all been squished together. So my understanding is there was almost $40 million at one point for all 3 phases. That's my question. I've talked to the sub-architects who are helping design the theater, and she's a great professional. And you need to know that there is so much behind the work that they've done. They're hiring people to do subsections of everything. So I can't applaud them better any more than that. Let's see, I gotta make sure I covered it all. I was wondering when the next rounds of talks will be for the details of the buildings with the stakeholders. And lastly, Mark Twain once said, it's a terrible death to be talked to death. So I leave you. Thank you.
Director Collins.
To your question, phase 3 was a 2-story enclosed air-conditioned pickleball courts.
No, those are way before that.
No, that was phase 3. But they weren't, for number 1, we didn't have the money, and number 2, they wouldn't never fit there for the parking issue. So it was that was thrown out there to make everybody happy. And I stood up at the meeting and I said, do not listen to this, it's not true. You can go back and check. I told everyone this is never gonna happen, forget about phase 3.
Well, I'm proud to say I'm young enough that I did not know about phase 1, 2, and 3. I've only learned about this project since last 18 months. So whatever was going on prior to that, I was Sun City young, and I wasn't involved in those things. So, but the point of that is we have a budget. It's whatever numbers you heard in the past, I wouldn't pay any attention to those numbers. The numbers that are relevant are what's coming out of these decisions right now, and will then start to get firmer once we say, okay, it's this alternative, start the design so that we have something that we can put out to bid and then hold the contractor's feet to the fire to complete the process for that dollar amount. And that is kind of where I bring my sledgehammer and try to do that as best I can for the membership. But that's kind of the plan. Okay, we have one more?
Number 88? 89, let's go to 89.
Virginia Schrader, 133135. I'd like to thank all of you. You're doing an excellent job. I do have a question. I like option 1 because I'm a huge fan of everybody keeping what they've got. I don't want to kick anybody to the curb. And so if we add shade, ventilation, and lighting to the pickleball courts, has anyone given thought to how many hours that will add to the pickleball court usage? Will that actually make it seem like you've got 14 courts because you've doubled the usage? I mean, we don't have to add a lot of courts and kick somebody out if we're adding usage. And that's...
Okay. Thank you. Great. All right. Any response at all?
I would say that it is something that we have discussed, is that when you start to extend the life of those courts, you absolutely create more usage, which would be absolutely beneficial. So I think it's absolutely something that can be considered.
Okay.
Do we have a number 90? Person online?
Anything?
Wait, we do. We do.
Oh.
Ma'am, can I
want to see your tag.
Can I see your tag, ma'am?
McAdams.
Yeah, so I'll be quick. I have one question, 2 corrections. My question is, I loved your presentation, but it was hard for me to find the number for the square footage of just the Performing Arts Center pieces, because it was always connected to other things. But my guess is that if I just did my subtraction correctly, that it's about 27,000 square feet. Is that right?
Oh. Wait, no, just ask your questions, ma'am, and then we'll get you the
Okay,
answers.
so that was my first question. 2 corrections. The original program for Mountain View that had a phase 3 with indoor pickleball courts, not only, for which there would never have been any parking, not only was that building indoor and air conditioned, it was actually a 2-story building. The height of a single-story building is 30 feet. So you can imagine that would never have happened. So anyway, that's just an interesting tidbit in the deliberations. But the other thing I just want to say, I'm always concerned when information is put out here from the podium that isn't true and isn't corrected. And so without trying to be mean to the woman who was the president of the women's tennis club, I just want to say that those statistics that she was quoting, she was saying it doesn't look like there's any more pickleball usage than there is tennis usage, because they have basically 4 times the number of courts. The numbers that are there are actually per court usage. So total usage at Mountain View was almost 17,000 for pickleball, and it was less than 1,000 for tennis. So if you think, okay, they have approximately 4 times the number of courts, you can see that there was a great disparity in usage there. And I just always like to make sure that the thing that got said that was wrong doesn't become an urban myth. So there you go.
Understood.
So the square foot of the particular pieces It's small, I apologize, it's small. But Karen, it is on this left side of the sheet. And so for option 4, it is a total building area of 28,000. Yes, I can see the problem now. A total building area of 28,000. The fitness program itself is 3,800. So yes, it's about subtracting it, and you're getting that number of what the performance would be specifically. But we have that information. We can get that information of all the specific, like this performance is this much, facilities is this. We have all of that as well. And yes.
Okay, I think we have one last question on the live stream.
Yes, one quick note as we're learning with the live stream, anyone who's speaking from the audience without a microphone, they cannot hear you on the live stream. It's been called out. Okay. So Mike Modell, number 145164, he says, so our options on the table, why not present a variable option proposal that the board could consider?
I'm not sure what that means. That we can mix and match or something, or?
Unfortunately, he's not here to elaborate on his question.
Okay. I think that, I mean, I get the thought process there, but I also think that from just a procedural point of view of trying to make a decision on something that is kind of a moving target would make things more complicated. Not necessarily impossible, but more complicated. Holding these alternatives as fixed choices, at least I think makes more sense for the board members to sit and deliberate and consider the pros and cons of each one of those alternatives, and where they personally feel is the best use of funds for the most people and will do the most benefit for Sun City. Everybody may have a different proposal, but I'm more inclined to keep fixed alternatives so that the decision-making is a little bit clearer for the board member and for the membership. Treasurer Borski.
Yeah, to the young lady that asked about have we made up our mind yet? I can tell you I haven't made up my mind. I had an idea, but I learned some things tonight that I didn't know before, and that has influenced me. Now I'm going to have to make up my mind pretty soon. I can tell you the 9 people up here, no one in this world wants this answer done more than us. We want this done, we want this moving, and we want this to happen. And hopefully we make the decision that you can support.
Vice President Nettesheim.
So I have a couple of housekeeping things real quick. I'd like to ask the members that were live streaming, there were 54 of them, if you have any feedback you would like to provide on the live streaming experience, please send it to Mr. Dermeyer and copy the board of directors, because it's Mr. Dermeyer who's kind of in charge of that. But we'd love to have feedback on how you experience the live streaming. The other thing I'd like to ask the audience members here. Last time we just had things up on the screen. This time we had the handouts. Did the handouts work better this time? Is everybody in agreement? Yeah. Okay. And was the flow of the answer and questions, did that work well for us as well? Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Director Collins, did you have a comment? No,
never mind.
You're good. All right. In that case, I think we've. Wait. Oh, Director Gray.
Yeah, since we get a chance to pipe in, I do want to add my comment that, one, as a resident of Sun City, I appreciate what our president has said about making sure we get the right amount, and then we hold that contractor to the feet to the fire. As a former contractor, I understand you got to keep within your budget. And again, I just want to reinforce, we're making a decision. We're acutely aware that it's your money and it's your community, and I think my other board members share the same kind of burden that I have. That's a deep responsibility to get it right. We're talking multi-million dollars. And so that I'm sure whatever decision we make, there are going to be people that are unhappy with us. And we're aware of that. But I just want you to know that as far as I know, all of us here, we want to make sure that we make the best financial decision for every member in our community and for the future of our community. And again, I appreciate you guys have been stellar in sitting through this whole time and listening to this. So we appreciate your feedback. As Treasurer Borski said, it helps inform our decision making. And just like TriARC was listening to hear what you had to say, we as a board are acutely listening, and then we have to take that information and make a decision. So thank you for your time, your attention, and your input.
Okay. Thank you, Director Gray. Let me just, a few closing comments. As we were talked up.
Did anybody pick up number 91? Good, okay.
Oh, you may proceed. All right, thank you. Yeah, I'm not going to do that. All right, the next meeting of the board, as we had addressed earlier, is on September 25th. It will be right here in this room at 9 a.m., and it could be an exciting meeting. The next exchange meeting is October 13th, here again at Sundial at 9 a.m., and we're still looking at a possible annual meeting on March 10th of 2026 at 6 p.m. that would be held right here in this room. So there being no further business this evening and without any objections, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you. Thank you. Go get me my can.
This is a copyrighted production of the Recreation Centers of Sun City Incorporated and is intended for the sole purpose of informing our Recreation Center members. Any duplication, copying, transmission, broadcast, or use, including electronic and social media, is strictly prohibited without the prior written consent from the Recreation Centers of Sun City Incorporated. Thank you for watching.